The Windmill Gnomes by Nanny Linda. There is a house on Pippin Lane that stands empty and forlorn, derelict and neglected, all furnishings dirty and worn. It has been that way for many years, since the owner went away, always planning to come back to live, but he never returned to stay. Number 8 Pippin Lane has a garden that looks about 50 feet long, that has a shed overgrown with ivy and weeds growing tall and strong. At the bottom of the garden, in a corner, tucked away out of sight, is a little wooden windmill which looks colourful and bright. In that little wooden windmill, the gnomes have made their home. Father Tucker, Mother Mim, and their children, Pixie and Roan. They are known as the gnome family Parsley, Father Tucker creating his trade, growing and selling at markets, and that's how their living was made. They grew it in the old garden, away from prying eyes, and this was how they had always lived, and how they have survived. Father Tucker Parsley had wandered to the garden when he was a much younger gnome, after travelling the roads of the country, searching for a place to call home. He had met his wife, Mother Mim, at the local county fair, and they had started to date and fell in love and married, and they were the perfect pair. Then 2 little daughters came along, Pixie and a few years later Roan, which complemented the little gnome family in their little windmill home. Life had been productive but quiet on this land at Pippin Lane, until one day a noisy man in a noisy big vehicle came. He walked around the old house, then down the garden path. He kicked the side of the old wooden shed and wandered off with a snort and a laugh. He then fetched from his car a large tall sign and hammered it in the ground, which read in large white letters, "For sale by auction in the local town." "Oh no, oh dear," cried Mother Mim, "what are we going to do? Are we going to be evicted? Will we have to move?" "Don't worry so," Father Tucker said, trying to calm Mother Mim down. "I'll go and make some inquiries and have a chat around." So Father Tucker went to see Gnome the Elder, who lived nearby and was named Flynn. He lived just on the edge of town, in a converted wheelie bin. Father Tucker spoke with Elder Flynn, who said that he had been told that a relative who had inherited the house had instructed it to be sold. "I don't know what I am going to do," Father Tucker said in alarm. "What will happen to our windmill home and our little parsley farm?" "Well," said Elder Flynn, stroking his long white beard, "all the gnomes that live hereabouts will help you move, don't fear. It might not even come to that, and selling number 8 could take years. It's in such dreadful disrepair, so tell lovely Mim to dry her tears." Father Tucker arrived back home and looked at Mim with such a sore heart. Mother Mim's face was swollen and red and covered in ugly big warts. "I had forgotten that this could happen to me," Mim said with tears in her eyes. "I have not had to worry for such a long time that these warts arrived with surprise. I get them when I am unhappy, or when I am angry or sad. Now I will have to stay hidden until I don't feel so bad." One day a family arrived at the house who had a little girl and started making house repairs, and the little girl was called Pearl. Pearl came wandering up through the path, trampling down the long grass and weeds, and clapped her hands in sheer delight at the windmill house and the parsley farm scene. "Whoa, how absolutely wonderful," Pearl said with a pure delight. And when Father Tucker came out of his front door, she had an awful fright. "I am so sorry to bother you," Pearl said as she got down on her knees. "I only came to investigate. We have bought number 8, you see." Father Tucker came down his front steps and looked up into Pearl's eyes. "I do hope you are not going to evict us," he said. "Oh, we wouldn't do that," she replied. "My family and I have lived here and worked on our parsley farm for years. My wife Mim is hiding indoors and just cannot stop the tears. My beautiful girls, Pixie and Roan, are settled and happy to live here. I don't want to uproot them, especially at this time of year." "I will go and speak to my daddy," Pearl said. "He definitely won't turn you all out." And she started to run up the garden and gave her daddy a shout. Father Tucker could see them all talking. Pearl's daddy was shaking his head. Then she was pulling him by his hand through the garden, down past the old wooden shed. Pearl's daddy stood and looked in amazement when he came to the windmill home. He peered inside the open front door and saw Father Tucker Gnome. "I'm sorry I didn't believe you, Pearl, when you were telling the truth. A gnome family and a parsley farm and a windmill with a pretty roof." "Good morning, sir," said Pearl's daddy. "It's very nice to meet all of you." "Morning to you too," Father Tucker replied. "Are we going to have to move?" "Oh, we wouldn't want you doing that," Pearl's daddy then replied. "This small part of such a large garden can be yours to work. You really don't have to hide. We can keep you secure and nobody need ever know that you live here and work a parsley farm. I can promise you that we'll help keep you safe and protect you from any harm." Then Mim and Pixie and little Roan came out, not feeling quite so scared. And Pearl's mummy had brought a picnic, and with the gnomes it was happily shared. They sat and chatted about everything, their worries and their plans. And Father Tucker said that on the house repairs he could lend a helping hand. "We really are so grateful," said Mother Mim to Pearl. "You are such a lovely family, and you are such a lovely girl." "We must go now," said Pearl's daddy. "I have to inspect the house, make plans for the renovations, and find builders hereabouts." "I can assist you with all of that," Father Tucker said. "Any time, just let me know. It's always best to plan ahead." So Pearl and her mummy and daddy wandered back up the garden path. And she waved to the little gnome family. "I'll see you later," Pearl laughed. "I couldn't be more delighted," Mother Mim said with a relieving sigh, "just knowing that we can stay here and also that we don't have to worry and hide." So the gnome family went into their house as it was nearly dinner time. Father Tucker went to pull parsley to make some homemade wine. Suddenly there was a knock on the door, and Mim opened it with a surprise. There stood their new neighbour Pearl, with such a gleam in her eyes. "This is for you, Mother Mim," she said. "It's cream that my mummy makes. It's for all sorts of skin conditions and ailments, but especially on warts. It works great." Then off she skipped, waving goodbye, saying, "See you all very soon. I think we will be moved in and settled by the time of the next full moon." Mim looked to Father Tucker Gnome and said, "What a strange thing to say. Do you think that they are hippie witchy folk? They appeared to dress that way." "I don't care if they are or not," Father Tucker said. "The fact that we don't have to move has helped my aching head." So Mother Mim took the jar of cream and rubbed it all over her face. And she went to look in the mirror, and of the warts there wasn't a trace.